Hi, Shan.
Hey, Melissa.
It's great to see you. How are you?
I'm good. It's really nice to be talking to you face to face because we've been.
Yes, so we know each other from a discussion group that we're in, the Discord group, which is brilliant. And you're always posting such interesting things. I love the things that you're posting.
Thank you.
So you're a sound therapist, aren't you, and an energy worker,
Yeah.
and you really have so many different interests. I know you're interested in energies of the body and also ancient history and the tarot and all sorts of things. So, can you tell me just a little bit about yourself first?
Sure. I'm 300 years old.
You don't look it.
Thank you. Um, yeah, I do. I have a lot of varied interests.
Yeah.
I'm a musician and
Uh-huh.
singer. My whole life, I've been dabbling in experimental sounds and music. And I'm
Wow. What
also
kind of music have you been mostly into?
okay. So again, hyper varied interests. What I'm really looking for with music is I'm looking for somebody who is able to connect with that higher muse, and it's like a feeling. Sometimes it's almost like pathos, just connecting to the sound. So I can listen to any type of music as long as I can feel that energy of like their self-expression coming through in
Yeah.
this very specific way. And that goes for visual arts and anything.
Yeah.
It's just how I connect to it. So I listen to a lot of different stuff from very, very abstract and bizarro realm experimental music to occasionally hip hop. I love symphonic music and also new age music, like 80s cassette, new age music, obsessed.
Yeah.
My my top people are usually poets, Leonard Cohen, David Bowie.
Yeah.
I love music, but my music is very vocal focused. So I got myself a guitar when I was, I don't know, probably 100 years ago. And,
When you were
and
only 200 years old.
when I was just a wee lass of 200 years old, I got myself a guitar and a poster with basic chords.
Yeah.
I would just practice the chords and write songs. Eventually, a friend showed me how to produce music. I was very, very fortunate to have so many amazing creators in my orbit. Like
Mm.
very, very, very fortunate. Um, so I learned how to record and produce music. I put out my first demo, and it was mostly just like nylon string, rhythm guitar, and
Mm.
like 40 vocal tracks layered on top, and then weird
Right.
noises that I had affected. So
Yeah.
I'm really into like the wall of sound feel. I love that energy, like the Phil Spector wall of sound energy. And there was another guy too in the same era that had, uh, oh, I can't remember his name now, but he had such a cool name that he was a producer too, and I was inspired by him as well. Um, so yeah, I started recording and playing live. I was playing drums in one band and then my own music too, and then filling in for percussion for other artists. So at one point I was playing, a couple shows a week for a really long time.
Yeah.
Then I tried doing some more. I worked with another producer to do some more tropical, dancey, more electronic music, which was really fun.
Hmm.
But my journey through music has been this really weird. Like, I'm obsessed. I'm just a gal that's obsessed with magic, and I see art and music as magic as well. And so my whole journey of self-discovery has kind of been cloaked with sound. as I'm growing and developing and learning myself and really focusing on authenticity, because even as an artist you're always like, well, I want to express purely from my own authentic positioning because
Yeah.
we're each totally unique. And I think when we start to wear other people's clothes, then that has its own importance. But we want to make sure we're wearing other people's clothes to see how they feel, but we're
Mm.
not like wearing them forever. We can take them off and like bare ourselves, but we can try on different outfits, costumes, and experiences. But
Mm.
as long as we're always really focusing, for me anyway, on
Mm.
that pure expression, because I think that's where a lot of our the magic of our human experience lies, is experimenting through life, but really focusing on that pure expression. So we
Mm.
project our art or whatever we're doing. Humans as creators, we're always creating something one way or another. So we want to make sure our aim is true. So yeah, I that ended up taking me to other places. I got into singing bowls and stuff like that, and it was really fun.
Mm.
Very relaxing, and got into meditation. Um, I was a little bit late to the breathwork train, but I got into that eventually. From singing bowls, I got into tuning forks.
Yeah.
And how I got into that was kind of cool because I was reading a bunch of books, and I was reading Sol Luckman. He has a great book called Potentiate Your DNA. Highly recommend it. He has
Okay.
this whole process of potentiation, his own systems, and
Yeah.
it's called the regenetics method. And I was reading him, and I think there was a reference in that book at some point, and so I wonder, it's hard to remember. I wonder if it was the other way around, but somehow through him, I found Eileen Day McCusick. And in Sol's book, in the regenetics method, he does use a tuning fork and he tones, and I'm very much into
Mhm.
tuning and using the voice. So I thought that was fascinating. And then I found Eileen, who specializes in tuning forks and has her own system called biofield tuning. And so
Yeah.
I read her first book, Tuning the Human Biofield, and I was obsessed. I was obsessed. I went to Amazon. I got like the cheapest forks I could find to start. I started practicing on friends. I was living in Detroit at this time, and I had a whole room that was just painted black, and I had all my sound stuff in there. And I just had like a wooden chair in the middle of the room, and my friends would come over and they would let me practice on them. And what I noticed through activating tuning forks, just mind blowing. I didn't know what I was going to see. I was like, is this real? Is this going to do something? But immediately I started recognizing density shifts and information coming through. And when I would express it to the person in the chair, they would confirm everything I'm saying in this creepy way, like things I should not be able to be receiving as information.
Well, this is a communication then. You're communicating with someone else with these tuning forks. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's wild. And you can use them on body, you can use them off body. When I first started practicing, I was doing off body. So that's like super woo, right? Because you've got like a tuning fork and you're activating it and you're dropping it outside of somebody's physical body into their atmosphere,
Yeah.
which you can call the biofield or the aura. And it's an electromagnetic field that stores information. And so, with specific frequencies of the forks, you'll notice, sometimes you get stuck and you want to hang out there for a minute. You're slowly pulling information back into the body, dropping it into energy centers, which are like uh, bidirectional vortices. They're going out and they're going in, and it sucks this information in and puts it back into the body to go back into process instead of being stuck and trapped information out in the field. So, yeah, it's crazy.
No, but hang on a second. Are you saying that like in that this information, it's like people's thoughts, people's energies, people's memories? Are they in this aura around them, and that you can tap into them through that? Or
Yeah.
is it something else? Yeah. So, I mean, just from your practice, you've discovered something that's completely amazing. Like, about how we can think about where information is stored. Maybe even our memories are stored all around us. Would that be something that you'd agree with? Or
Yeah, I believe that the brain is an incredible processing system, but it's also very reptilian, and the brain is obsessed with self-preservation. So the
Mhm.
brain works on a lot of uh, it, it, it really focuses on fear. The brain can really get focused on fear. So when I'm working with someone who is constantly has like looping thoughts,
Mm.
anxieties, they're projecting forward or they're thinking about the past.
Yeah.
That's sometimes these patterns that we develop from early childhood, and we'll start to kind of loop in them automatically.
Mm.
And we almost start to behave like an automaton based on these deeply held beliefs and
Yeah.
patterns that get locked into our brain.
Yeah.
And then the brain, the nervous system will pick up on patterns, and the nervous system will pattern itself to these fear patterns and apprehensions. So you get the same response from the nervous system.
Okay.
So you're in fight or flight more than you need to, instead of a relaxed, healing state where your body can repair and restore and rest.
Okay.
So the nervous system then gets really because it's working also to protect you in ways as well. So it can get stuck. So when you try to make changes
Mm.
for life for self betterment, it feels like a threat.
Yeah.
And so your body will tell you, "Oh no, watch out! Don't do that. That's new and scary." And so you have to reprogram yourself through different types of discipline, so you can change patterns. That's why when we try to change things in our life, we go a couple weeks, a couple months, and then we're like, "Oh, it's just too hard. I'm just gonna try."
Mhm.
But if you can work with the body's energies, it will support you and it makes those transitions easier. And the brain is just the processing system, it's the reptilian fear system. And then I do believe, through my experience and other people's experiences, as well as science, that our memories are stored in the field. And
Mhm.
so when I'm talking about the field, to give everybody a better visual, I mean, we can imagine what the aura is like, but I'll explain the biofield and how I experience it. So it is a expanding or contracting electromagnetic field that surrounds our body, that's about 5 feet out in all directions, above the head and below the feet as well. There is a double layer membrane on the outside that holds your information within your atmosphere or bubble. And that has a different density than once you pass through it and enter the field. And that density, the information that typically is stored in there, can be ancestral information, information related to your parents or family or society or culture at the time of conception. Then there's conception, um, um, gestation. Sorry, I was thinking of the word. Gestation experience is stored in that tight little space, and then the birth experience. So from the birth experience, we're on the very edge, the outside, like 5 feet
Mhm.
out of the body. And as you move closer into the body, you're reading that person's timeline. Like if you imagine you cut a tree in
Okay.
half and there's rings, it's like you're reading the rings or like the lines on a record. You're reading that information, that person's story. The
Yeah.
closer you get into the body, about 10 inches off the body, the density changes again. And you
Yeah.
have a lot of like very new information that hasn't fully processed. So it's harder to work in that space. And then you get onto the body. So you're getting all the mind and memory and patterns. It's wild.
I've
Yeah.
never heard this before. This is incredible. So I knew, of course, about auras and about different colors in the auras, and but I wasn't too sure what they meant. But I never heard that so clearly explained about all these experiences, and they seem to be stacked in, well, stacked, sort of arranged in chronological order. So going out, and it's almost like a cell, isn't it? Like a this kind of cell-shaped thing all around you. And I'm so fascinated by the ancestral memories as well as the gestation and the birth, and then all these things coming in, and it's like this whole build up of all these experiences, but some of them not even your own. That's what's even so incredible. And even the stuff about the womb, uh, that's something I've been looking into actually recently myself because of my son, actually, because he's been having a hard time, and I put it back to some experiences that I had when I was pregnant with him, and I think that's really, really relevant. And but to have it explained so clearly like that is just incredible, because it's something that I kind of wanted to believe in, or almost believed in, but I never really had it explained to me like that, and I totally think that makes sense. So how did you come about this? Like, how did you discover this? Is this something you found out for yourself, or was it in the book that you mentioned, or how did you come across it?
Yeah, so this very specific explanation of the biofield came directly from Eileen Day McCusick, who I then went on to study through her school for certification in biofield tuning.
Yeah.
But there have been people before her who have worked with tuning forks and the biofield. In fact, when she really first started writing her thesis originally, um, there wasn't a whole lot of information to find on the biofield, but there
Mhm.
was like this much that existed. So since she's been able to work with it, there's been more science to back things. Like biofield
Yeah.
tuning, it's actually been clinically studied to support anxiety
Okay.
remotely and in person. So there's science being done about this. And the biofield is a real thing. It's an electromagnetic field. And I think something that really helps to remove the woo is to just think about things more. Uh, okay, so we live in an electric universe.
Mhm.
We have electric bodies. All of our cells that you're mentioning have electricity, electrical
Yeah.
impulses. That's how they're able to generate life
Yeah.
and multiply and exist because of these electrical surges, right?
Mhm.
So if we know that our bodies are electrical, we know that every piece within us is electrical, then we know that we're emitting an electromagnetic field, and that's all it is. It's an electromagnetic field. Anything that has energy emits an electromagnetic field. So when we kind of look at it from more of like a scientific stance, it becomes less new age and less like aura high vibes talk and more like we're in our bodies and we're
Mm.
looking at our human experience. A lot of this information has been super occulted because it doesn't align with the, um, I wanted to say the Epstein universe because I just watched Almond last night. Anyways, it doesn't align with like the cultural narrative that is more oppressive, right? So
Mm.
because we're not meant to understand our bodies, we're supposed to give that power away to other people to tell us what's right, what's within law, what's within the space of our culture that we live within. We're not really taught these things from a young age, like somebody in more of like maybe a magical tribal culture would have been taught. But it exists, it's real. There's thousands of people, if not more than that, who experience it. And
Mhm.
when you like the proof is in the pudding. So the more that you learn how to do things without tools, tuning forks are amazing. I highly
Mm.
recommend them. But one of my passions is trying to empower people um, to take care of themselves on their own in different ways. And that could be hands-on, it can be off-body, using, the magnetism of your hands by
Yeah.
touching, thumping the body. And you
Yeah.
actually mentioned, because when we got on this call before we started recording, You asked me about my practice because I told
Yeah.
you the time change happened and I was like running around all morning playing catch up and I was feeling really tense. And every time, every day I do the same practice. And as soon as I do it, because I've been doing it so long, I drop like right into a relaxed, grounded state almost
Mhm.
effortlessly. And I've been in very heightened states and applied this, and it's helped me to process and work through really intense shifts and through life. So I can show you it if
Oh,
you. Okay.
absolutely.
It relates to what we're talking about, and it can show people something they can try. Uh,
Yeah.
so this is called the four thumps, and there's other parts too, but I recommend doing this whole thing. It takes like less than 3 minutes to do every day. And if you find space for yourself to do little things like this,
Mm.
even if you break it up throughout the day, then you will see results. I guarantee it. I've seen
Oh,
people completely transform just from doing this exercise. So you can do it seated or standing, and I'll do it seated for the sake of where we are right now. And you can follow along if you
I'll follow
want.
along. I'm actually standing, so yeah, I'll follow along.
All right, I'll stand with you for the last part so you can see what I'm doing better. So the four thumps are basically you want to use the notches of your fingers, just like the tips of your fingers. You can make little, you know, guys like this, or you can just go like that on your body. I like to start over the thymus, which is like between the throat and the heart in the
Mhm.
middle. It's kind of like a half step.
I'll stand up a bit taller.
Yeah. So it's really great if you have your shoes off. I always
Wait,
recommend
I'll take the
getting
shoes
your
off.
shoes off.
Hang on.
Um,
Now I've gone small again.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna start by thumping here
Mhm.
gently, whatever feels good. If touching your body in any particular place does not feel good, then don't push through it. You can go off the body and tap in the field, and that will still work.
Okay.
As you get better, you can take a nice deep breath in your nose, exhale out. You want to do 3 breaths while we're here, just like that, in your nose and out your mouth. As you get better, you can even like lay in bed at night and do this exercise just in your mind, and you'll feel the same body sensations. So deep breath in, exhale out. And then from here, we're going to come up to this point on the kidney meridian and do the same thing. Tapping, thumping. You find your collarbone, you
Mhm.
drop down into the notch, and you just kind of move out a little bit. It might feel different from the other parts of your body here, more tender, and that's okay. So 3 breaths in the nose, out the mouth. This is a part of the kidney meridian. It's kind of like an on switch for your body's energies. And your meridians are basically like life force channels or highways that run through your entire body in specific directions and also connect with your organs. There's emotional information stored in your organs as well. So, working with these meridian parts, they really help your whole body to come into flow.
Yeah.
So from here, you're going to drop down to, if you're a girl, then if you wear a bra, you can drop underneath your bra and you're going to hit a part of the spleen meridian. And it can be tender, and that's okay. And you can rub it if you want to. You can come around the front. And you're going to do 3 breaths here as well, in the nose, out the mouth, whatever feels comfortable for you. You're going to tap, rub, thump, massage, or go off the body for 3 breaths. And your spleen meridian is pretty amazing. Your spleen can help you integrate your food and stuff like that. Your spleen part meridian is really it helps you integrate different types of experiences as well. Like if you have a
Yeah.
difficult conversation, you can work with this area and it can help you to integrate more effortlessly the information that you're working with.
Okay.
So from here, you can come up to the orbital bone just beneath the irises is part of the stomach meridian here, and this is very grounding. So we hit this last for 3 breaths, and we're just grounding everything we've got moving. You can come up around the orbital bone. There's some great relaxing nervous system spots here you can play with as well. And after that, you can shake it off and you can just kind of come into silence. You can go into what in yoga we call the mountain pose, or just kind of standing with your hands by your side and just be quiet for a second. Notice any sensations. Check in with how you're feeling. And then from here, we're going to do the other part. Okay, and this is a crossover movement. If you just do the four thumps, great. This is not emotional freedom technique. I know tapping is a thing. This is totally different, but it does use a lot of the same information. The next part we're going to do is to help our energies cross over.
Okay.
We're stressed out, they start to move unilaterally, and we don't want that because then we're not optimizing the function of our energy systems. They naturally cross over halfway through the body. So we want them to do that. That's the happy place. Like when a tree falls in a river, the river doesn't stop flowing, it just breaks out and finds other ways to flow around. But we want our stream to be strong. So the crossover is really great. So start with your palms, and they're going to be tapping here, right above the knee. Okay, so you can do this in the chair or you can do it standing. You're going to start by just 1, 2, 3, 4, shake it off, and then we're going to cross over. So 1, 2, 3. Breathing out your mouth if you can on that exhale, making sure your hands crossing over the center line of your body, and you can be as big or as small as you want to as long as your hand is crossing over the center line. You want to do this at least 3 times more than you did the first one. Shake it off. And then this one really helps. Stack your hands, put it over the pelvis, touching or off body, however you're comfortable. Take a deep breath, and with that breath, pull your hands up to the mouth, flip it at your mouth so your palm is outward, and then raise up to the air, and then exhale, shower your hands down, bringing them back stacked here, and you'll do that 2 more times. So breathe in, pull it up, flip at your mouth, up into the air, exhale down and around your body. And 1 more. Flip. And then immediately, 1 finger goes in your belly button. The other finger goes into your third eye space. Push gently in and up for 3 breaths. This is called a hookup. We're taking everything we did, hooking it in. And then you just shake it off. And shake your feet and your hands. So without all my yapping, that takes about 3 minutes.
I feel kind of different. I can't really explain how, but I do feel different. I feel like just almost more alive, like it's kind of hard to explain. I guess anyone watching this has to try it for themselves, but it's definitely different in a good way. That's really nice. I'm definitely going to do those. It's not unlike some exercises I already do in the morning anyway, in a sense. I kind of do a lot of this kind of stuff and a lot of then this kind of stuff. But I think this is just to the next level. And I think understanding what you're explaining about these different points is really incredible, because that just brings up to a whole different level, it's not just movement, it's more than that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And would you do this every morning, then every evening as well, Shan? Or
Yeah, it changes depending on the day. I've been doing it for a couple years, so every day at least. But really, it depends on if I need it more than once. If I'm having a rough day, then I'm like, okay, remember your tools, which is practice in itself.
Yeah.
My teacher told me, she was like, She's like, these are the tools that you need anytime you're experiencing stress or anxiety, but you will absolutely forget to use them when you actually need them. And it's so true. So the practice of like doing it every day, what I
Mm.
notice if I don't do it in the morning, then halfway through the day, I'm like, oh, I feel stagnant. I'm like, aha. So I do that, and then that disappears, and I feel amazing.
Mhm.
One thing about the one where you stack and come up, this is really amazing because you can set intentions when you're doing this. And what you're doing is you're pulling that information up through the central channel, and then you're bringing it all the way up because the biofield is shaped like a toroid. Like if you cut the apple in half, you've got the
Yeah,
toroidal.
I've
So
seen images like that. Yeah.
yeah, so you're working through that and you're showering that intention down through the field. So it's
Okay.
really, really nice.
Wow, that's great. Um, so this is something anyone can do, and it's easy. It's not difficult. You know, you don't need to kind of be able to touch your toes or anything. It's something that anybody can do. So that's why it's so powerful, I guess. And then where do your tuning folks come in then, Shan?
So that practice I learned through my energy medicine yoga instructor training. And I've taught yoga with tuning forks too, which is amazing, but that's not a biofield tuning or tuning fork practice. They really complement each other super
Mm.
well. But when I'm using my forks, then I'm seeing clients for either on body or field work, as we call
Hmm.
it, just working within the field. So
Yeah,
that's a practice that I typically teach to my clients for their own personal energetic hygiene, which
yeah,
is so critical that we have something for that instead of just letting ourselves become like, "Ugh, I feel bad every day and I'm not going to do anything about it." Like so many of us are afraid to even touch our bodies. So
mm,
being okay with being a person, you know, a meat sack full of goo, like we have to experience ourselves like
yeah,
we're here, so enjoy
yeah.
it.
It's like
Uh,
that expression, get in touch with yourself, literally.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So tuning forks would come in if I'm doing like on my YouTube, I do those monthly group sessions,
yeah.
and that's fun because I get to read a whole group, and that's very different from one-on-one. Um, but yeah, if you have any questions about what a session is like, or
Absolutely. So first of all, so your website, your YouTube channel is called Modern Medwear, and so in these sessions, you start off with the tuning forks, and then the idea is everyone watching is watching live with you, and they can tell you how they're getting on, how they're feeling. Isn't that right? So
yeah.
how does it work? How does it go?
Yeah. I usually do a bit of like a diatribe and then we'll go into a theme for the session. I try to connect it into the collective, and there's a bit of magic happening there because you're reading a collective energy. And you're
Mm.
not only reading the people who are there present in the live, but my intention is that everybody who finds it is in that holographic field that I'm working on in that session. So it could be 5 years later, you find an old video. Well, you were intended to be in that space. And I know a lot of people say that, like, if you're seeing this, it is meant for you, and that, like in tarot and stuff like that. But I mean, those are real intentions, and
Mhm.
you can project that information, and it's physics. So we start off with the tuning forks, and typically I use there's two different types. So I use an unweighted fork is the one that you hear when you activate it, and then I have weighted forks, which you don't really hear so much, but I have little booties.
Feel.
You feel them though.
I almost feel it from here. It's
Yeah.
funny.
These are so I do too. I'm gonna cross my legs. So these are really powerful, and I kind of will when I'm working, I'll see these as like different grits of sandpaper. Like these are not so fine, so I can really
Mm.
come in there and like clear some stuff out. quickly, but I get a lot of emotional information from these. Whereas when I come in with something like this is the 174, this is like my working fork. When I come in with the 174, it's like a hound dog. It's sniffing stuff out left and right. It wants me to stay everywhere. And I have to be like, okay, we're dragging this in. We will hang out here. But it like really wants to pick up on everything. It's super fine, fine grit. And I have a bunch of different uh, frequencies of forks that tend to do their own thing. They all have their own personalities. But in the session, I'm using more of these because you can hear them, although you don't have to for the session to work. And I'm just dropping it in and visualizing that hologram of the collective energy and picking up on it's tricky because it's different from a regular session. So I'm picking up on the
Mhm.
common themes that everybody is sharing. And then I'll, discuss some of the information that we're picking up on. I will notice when people are holding their breath, when I've hit something that's struck a chord. I have to remind everybody, don't forget to breathe. Allow
I know
your,
you can forget. I know I do.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole practice, remembering to breathe. So we do that, and the first thing it does is it helps people to relax, helps them to get back into their bodies. And as we know, we can't really heal, restore ourselves unless we're in a state of relaxation.
Mhm.
Healing doesn't happen when we're in fight or flight all the time. That tears us apart in time. And as that information becomes more and more stuck, then you're affecting the physical body and you have pain manifesting and you have patterns that are doing a lot of harm that we know aren't good for us, but we feel helpless and stuck, like we can't change it. So
Mhm.
we need to get into a relaxed state. We can think clearly, we can feel clearly, and we can
Yeah.
remember ourselves better.
Remember ourselves better. That's really impressive. Like, remember ourselves better because we are something, right? There's something that we are, and that maybe we come away from that. But then we're also always transforming, aren't we? There's always this sense that, we're not the same person as we were last year or the 2 years ago, but there's still something that's ourselves, or maybe you could say that we're supposed to be, or that we want to be. So we're always trying to maybe approach that and try not to depart from that too much. And, um, I don't know. So how does that work for you then? That sense of trying to be true to yourself, because you talked about that earlier with music, that sense of experience, but that sense of authenticity as well.
Yeah, that was a tough one, authenticity. Um, it continues to be. That is like, I mean, I'm still not anywhere close to where I wish I was. I don't think I ever will be. I think anyone who says that they're like, they've got it and they're good, I'm like, I don't trust you. So, but I see healing and development, which, development is a type of healing. It's just that's what it is to be human. We pick up patterns, we pick up habits that
Mm.
aren't always beneficial to us. They may have served a purpose when we picked them up, but we need to learn how to drop them down and keep expanding. So I see development as a spiral, and it starts, we could say it starts at inception, and then after birth our journey begins and we start to spiral outward. You can visualize this as, what is the laconic pattern of the golden ratio that we see in nature. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't development also spiral? We start off on our journey, hitting all the points we might hit, and sometimes we run into situations or experiences that are shocking or disruptive, but and we don't always have the tools how to deal with that. So we
Mm.
continue, and those
Yeah.
disruptions can pattern and work against us rather than for us. So if we know that we can work with them, we should do that. So I call that sacred disruption. It's we hit these shock points in life, and sometimes we will disassociate from them or avoid them, or
Mm.
someone says something mean to us and we just blah and don't think about it. So we want to learn how to create space between action and response, or action and reaction. And sometimes that means sitting with discomfort. And we're all like, oh, I want comfort. I want instant gratification. I just want to make this okay. I just want everybody to get along. I'll be fine. I'm okay sacrificing my peace if it means everyone else will be peaceful, because ultimately that will serve me and I can find my peace later.
Yeah.
No, we need to sit with discomfort when it happens. And that learning to sit with that and learning to experience it and gather information from what we learn about ourselves in that pocket of discomfort helps us to know ourselves better, and it helps us to step into our authenticity. We're not here to be liked. We're not here to be loved by every single person we meet. We are a bunch of organisms coexisting in nature, and we all serve our own purposes. And I think that the truer we align with our spiral or our path, which is unique to every person entirely, the more true we align to our path, the more things are lit up along the way, to the point where you don't have to overthink it anymore. You're not stressing and worrying. You feel a deep inner knowing of what is right for you and what is not. And if you make a mistake, oh well, we all do, and you're able to sit with it and think like,
Mm.
what am I learning about this before I move forward, instead of tossing it off or beating yourself up about it. What can you actually really learn? And that also can have to do with accountability. We have to learn to be accountable for our actions, and that's uncomfortable. So sitting with that discomfort kind of trains our nervous system, like we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier, trains our nervous system to be okay with things changing, and to learn how to protect us in a way that is useful for who we are now. So we hit these shock points, and we can't really move past these points. Like, it's like you reach a point, you get the shock point, and then you kind of feel stuck in that. And then you
Mm.
kind of carry it in your field, right? So if we're able to work with it, then we can actually progress to the next cycle of the spiral. And this is kind of like a this is very challenging to explain, and it's like very physics, because there's so many spirals probably happening at the same time, but I'm really trying to focus on like one line that's not necessarily linear. And there's spirals that will interconnect through our life, but we need to create that space to process information before we try to push through it onto the next stage, because we're just taking it with us to the
Mm.
next cycle, and we're going to hit other points that relate to that point, and we're not going to know how to process it if we haven't already worked, with the old trauma, the old information. So for me, learning how to do that was very, very important. Fortunately, biofield tuning makes that really easy, because you're working with the energy instead of intellectualizing it. So I felt like I was in a space where I could effectively, then, without all the emotional charge, look at myself and learn to work with these things. And then the thumping, keeping my nervous system calm, keeping myself healthy. But yeah, we're constantly growing in development, but it's nature. We reflect nature. The seed is nature. The seed has life within it. It sprouts and it blooms, but there has to be a disruptive force
Mm.
for that plant to break out of the seed, and then it has to find the reconciling forces of water and sun for it to really flourish and bloom.
That's interesting. Yeah. So the disruption is actually essential, even if it's going to create this discomfort. And would you say that then sitting with that discomfort, that's what meditation is? Like, what does that mean, sitting with your discomfort? What does it mean? Does it mean just observing it from a distance within yourself, or does it mean just accepting it but getting on with your day, or how does that work?
Um, that's going to be different for every person and what they need to learn more about themselves. And even if somebody is like brushing things off, like, get on with the day, I'm just going to be okay with it, then that will eventually continue to come around until they do learn how to maybe manage it, but that's their
Mhm.
unique path, and that's how they have to, learn and gather information. I mean, I've made 3,263,000,000 and 458,268 mistakes in my life and counting. So that's just how we learn. But in meditation, everybody does it different. There's a lot of different types of meditation. Like in transcendental meditation, you're typically repeating a mantra, and that's supposed to keep you from focusing on your other thoughts. And
Yeah.
those specific sounds have a purpose as well. But I think that the yogis do say, right, like sit with your discomfort. And I mean, Crowley even says in his meditations that, you got to sit with your discomforts, your physical pains, and, you know, all the bad stuff that comes up through sitting for extended periods of time. I'm not in that camp. I'm in the camp of, like some things should feel uncomfortable. Like we have neurovascular lymphatic points on our bodies that can hurt,
Mm.
and we got to get in there and rub them. You get a massage and something kind of hurts, but you got to get in there and massage it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so there's discomfort and then there's pain. And when we do yoga, if you're hitting a pose and there's pain, I want you to back off of it immediately. I don't want you to push into pain to the point where you're injuring yourself. And meditation is no different from that. If we're sitting and something comes up for us and it's, uncomfortable, then we can process through that. Ideally, in meditation, the whole point is to clear the mind so that you're not hamster wheel thinking, because that's why we want to stop thinking for a while
Mm.
and go into our bodies. So I think that might be why they focus on disconnecting from that so that they can sit longer and try and
Mm.
reach that point. But for me, meditation is really an act of living, and I'll sit quietly and reset. But I really try to bring my meditation into everything that I do. Like
Mhm.
this is a funny example, and I've probably given it before. But if I'm doing the dishes and somebody says, "Oh, I was going to do those. I've got it," in my heart, I'm like, I am enjoying this, and I'm okay doing it. Like I want to bring that moment of focus and being present into what I do throughout the
Mm.
day as much as possible.
Mm.
And I'm a mom and I'm busy, so uh, everything, all my practices, I've tried to work them into, rather than I'm going to do yoga for an hour today, I'll break things up throughout my day.
Yeah.
I'll have stretching sessions throughout the day, and I'll hold my body in ways that are, doing something for me. And I'm constantly like massaging and rubbing points on my body. It's crazy. But not in like a neurotic way, but
No, but because it's worth doing to keep your energy through the day. That's kind of, I think, maybe what I meant by getting through your day or getting on with your day. That like throughout your day, that it's not just that you have this window between, I don't know, 8 and 8:30 when you're doing your stretches in the morning. It's not that it stops then. It's that you can carry through the rest of your day, well, within reason, depending on your schedule and everything, but carry through these, the stretches and the movements and then the pressure points, which is something I have to learn how to do. And it's something that's with you then for the whole day. And then, as you say, if you're doing a task, especially one where you don't have to think too much, but you can just use your hands, then it's an opportunity to just, like you said, be in your body, which is really beneficial. Another person would say, oh, about the washing up. Oh, you said you would do it, and then look, you didn't do it, and getting all fed up and everything. But actually, you can just, as you say, just enjoy it. And there's something about water as well. So that's a really good example. Um, yeah, and so again, you were talking about this information that's being stored all around you, which is really fascinating. Like just to think that there's it's not just empty space, it's not just air, there's all this stuff all around you, and it's constantly being added to, and then maybe even you're referring to it without realizing it. You're referring to memories that you barely even have consciously, but they're still there all around you, which is amazing as well.
Yeah.
How do you think that works in terms of, you mentioned about maybe your parents or your grandparents or some kind of ancestral memory? Because I think there's a science of epigenetics whereby you're inheriting things from your grandparents and further. But this is really interesting, that sense that they're all around you, you know, that they never really left you and they're still there.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel about your own ancestors, I guess, or grandparents, or further back?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. Okay, so in sessions with clients, there is a part within the field that runs along that 10-inch zone, just off the 10-inch zone.
Yeah.
And it's called the Ancestral River. And so sometimes it wants your attention and sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, there's usually information there, like a message to be received. And sometimes based on the direction of the flow of current, it could be from, your lineage, future lineage, or previous lineage. And there's been some really wild stuff to come through there that's really helped my clients to heal in ways that they didn't even imagine for themselves. And I can't explain it. But I believe that nature is expresses itself through everything.
Mm-hmm.
So this energy of ancestral energy that is stored in our DNA, it has to be expressed in some way. I don't know what that way is, but I would bet my bottom dollar it's energetic. So so we pick up on that stuff. I've learned to embrace more of my personal history and family history through, experiencing some of this information in a new way, and it's made me feel really proud and supported. And I mean, I don't want to say looked after, but I can't think of a better way to say it. I don't know. It feels good to feel that you're connected to something greater than yourself, that is a part of you, because, we carry all of this DNA information in us. And then there's also, in addition to that, there's morphic resonance.
Yeah.
So, then you have like patterns that we carry from our ancestors. And that's something that really did it for me, especially through motherhood and then connecting with this information. Like, I'm carrying the motherhood energy of my lineage.
Yeah.
And that morphic resonance is basically says that, I think an easy way to understand it is that, like, when habits are formed, then they can be passed down through basically energy or our DNA or whatever it is. But like certain types of animals will have the same, like birds will have the same flight patterns to go to this one place. And even the baby birds who are born, and I've never seen anybody do it before, they just somehow inherently know to follow the same path.
And that would explain it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that would, yeah. I mean, when you think, I think that so I live in Ireland, and the geese come over here in the winter from Canada, and apparently on why they would do that is crazy to me. I mean, they should just go to the States, right? It makes no sense, but they come over all the way over the Atlantic, and apparently there's a place where there was once an island. I don't remember exactly where it is now, but there's a place where there was once an island, and they kind of come down in altitude for a bit where it was, and then there's nothing there, and then they go back up again. And this must be generations and generations of geese. I find that fascinating, that maybe there's this information and they have some way of accessing it, and then even the mystery of how they even find their way. I mean, I don't think that's really fully explained, which is really fascinating as well. So this idea that there's information around us, for a start, is one thing, but that it could be connected to previous generations, I find really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
Whether you know anything about you as a human, whether you know anything about your ancestors or not. I mean, many people don't really know very much, because we're through different situations and crises, and we've been moved around, and our grandparents are from over here and over there, and they don't talk about their experiences from the war or whatever, but they're there. So
Isn't it wild? Like, have you heard that story about the twins who were separated? Or I think it was, I mean, there's a couple stories about twins being separated and finding each other, and they have the same lives, and they found the same partner, and like all that type of stuff. And that
Yes.
there was like,
Yeah.
well, I don't remember if they were like quadruplets or whatever. I forget, but there were these twins that came together, and it was just
Yeah.
like mind blowing.
Yeah.
That stuff,
Yeah.
how else does that get expressed unless there's pre-existing information?
Mm. Yeah, that's the only way that you can really make sense of it. Otherwise, there's no way you can understand this as coincidence. It's more than that. So this energy field that has information in it is really fascinating. What would you say consciousness is then?
Consciousness. Wow. Well, part of me feels like consciousness is our direct line into the all. Um, and it's the all is just being expressed through each of us. It's like, you can say the universe is expressing itself uniquely through
Mm.
everything that it bestows life upon and energy upon. And I feel that consciousness ties directly into that. Um, I mean, to me, everything is data. It's all information. So it would make sense to me if we're coming from like the all energy, then it's being filtered and processed into the multitudes. So
Mm.
that would kind of bestow upon us the consciousness. Bugs have consciousness.
Hmm. Hmm.
Trees and plants have consciousness.
I
They've done
believe,
the
yeah.
science to try and show it. And so life energy, I believe, or I feel deeply life energy carries that with it. Like when things die, the consciousness leaves, but the matter remains, and then it's broken down to create new form. But that essence metamorphosizes or transforms and continues on.
Mhm.
I think. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it. It's kind of out of my field of expertise, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting to think about it because I think that when you're talking, like, so many people nowadays think of consciousness as something that the brain is producing, and that it's also something that really only happens when you're not asleep or under anesthetic. So that's a very limited view of what consciousness is. But I'm interested in what you're saying because for me, it links up with, as you said, animal plant consciousness and a much, much bigger idea of what consciousness is. So for me, that all ties in together with this idea of this electromagnetic current and this field and the information that's carried there. For me, that makes much more sense than saying the brain is producing this experience that you have when you're awake, and then when you're asleep there's no such thing as consciousness, it's gone. That's quite common at the moment. It just makes no sense to me.
Especially when you think about lucid dreaming and stuff, right? Because,
Yeah,
like, how's that
any
happening?
kind of dreaming, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I agree. I agree with what you're saying about that. It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. It's limiting. So,
Yeah. What about music then? So how does music help you to transform and to go through these experiences? Like, you said you're interested in all sorts of different kinds of music. Actually, me too. Um, just it doesn't have to be like a particular style, but once you can get something out of it, um, how do you think that helps you in terms of your body's energy and your experiences in life?
well, our bodies are very resonant and they work directly with rhythm and vibration and ratio. So I think that the more that we can apply sound to ourselves, the more we can relax and tune into our body. Because
Mm.
when you're doing something like toning your you're reverberating different parts of your body. And you can really, in meditation with toning, you can tune into where sounds are landing in your body. And they're
Okay.
also more or less the sounds that the earliest sounds we made, as babies. And so it's fun to see it all as more playful than some kind of serious Golden Dawn 900-page manual about the absolute correct way to do a ritual. I think that we can be more playful and
Yeah.
really focus on experiencing ourselves more. So as we're experiencing ourselves when we listen to music, then it becomes, how am I experiencing this piece of music and what is it doing for me? And I've gotten to a point now where, like, I love so many things, right? I love music, but I sometimes get in these spaces where I can't even listen to things with lyrics because I'm feeling that it's bringing me down emotionally.
Yeah.
And a song in any language, you hear a song, doesn't matter what the words are or if there are words at all, your body feels the emotive state of the music. And that's also how tuning forks work, because when we're applying them into the field, the music or the tone of the fork, it's kind of working like a type of like echolocation. So when I'm activating something like an unweighted fork and dropping it down in the field and coming across something, then it's bouncing frequency off the body and back to the fork, and the sound of the fork changes. So one of the ways that this works is deep listening and deep awareness to the actual music that's coming off of the fork. The texture will change depending on where I am in the field. It will sound angry, it will sound sad, frustrated, anxious,
Okay.
joyful. It changes based on what's reflected off of the body. And I think that that's like a very magical way to work with the physical form and emotions, to process emotions back into the body. Music is super powerful. Music is everything. The everything is, vibration and frequency. The music of the spheres, the rays of creation, everything. Light is vibration and another frequency wave, right? So when we're working with chromotherapy and we're working with colors, we're working with vibration. It's all the same. I'm just choosing to use this. I connect very deeply with this, and I've seen amazing results using frequency, sound frequency for healing.
That's interesting. You talk about color. So that can also have a huge effect. Look at me in my dark room and you in your beautiful area with the blue sky and the blackbird singing. But isn't it true though? Because like I'm literally next to a window and there's no light today. But I actually love color. I actually, on my desk here, I have a little color card from a paints company, and I love looking at the colors. And I think it's just that, um, like that, it just has. It's a bit like the tuning forks for me in that. You can't really express the effect it's having, but it definitely has an effect. And it's just, I just have it here. It's handy so I can. That's not my favorite page. My favorite page is this one.
I
This
want
one
to see
here.
it.
I love these colors,
Oh, nice.
and they're kind of just really gorgeous. And it's silly. I just take it out every so often. I have a quick look and then I put it back again, and it just calms me. So it's weird. But I love the sound of the effect that these tuning forks are having, and that you're reading the information, and you can tell so much about a person from that. And it kind of reminds me, it's a silly thing, but my friend who cuts my hair, she says she can tell so much about a person from their hair. For example, like she said, looking at my hair one time, she said, "Oh my God, what happened to you last March?" She was like, "You lost a lot of hair and then it kind of grew back and something happened to you." And I was like, "Oh my God, how do you know that?" She can read the scalp,
Wow.
And but that's what you're doing is obviously 10 times more information, and there's just so much more going on there. I just think that's amazing that you can literally tune into someone. That's the word, you know.
It's just like changing the dial on a radio. You can tune in to whatever you want to tune into, and anybody can do this. Like, I'm not special, I'm not
Oh,
more
I think you need a
intuitive.
certain kind of person. I'd say you have the definite talent for that. And I think as well, you need to have the interest. Otherwise, you wouldn't have found these tuning forks. But the fact that you're doing this work is really incredible.
Thank you.
So is it just the two main ones that you showed us that do the work, or do you have the whole set?
Yeah, so let's see. Spring has sprung.
Does it have?
All right, so these are a pair. These are my Schumann pair. And I like to use them together when I can, especially like on the face and head, because it's so instantly relaxing, or like on the ear flaps. It creates kind of like a binaural beat when you use them together. And this one is 62.64, and this one is 54.81 hertz. So when you combine them, then it creates the half step. And I use these more than any other weighted forks, except for my sonic slider. My sonic slider is like my first aid fork. I use that in my personal practice. I don't really use these as much in my personal practice. But these are very relaxing and very grounding on body, and you can kind of visualize it like a sonic massage when they're on your body. The vibration is going into your body, and it will light you up, and you'll feel like electricity and tingling and all kinds of sensations. Things start to come alive and awaken within your physical body, and it's a very magical experience. I was working with a woman. She was 80 years old, and she had numbness in her fingertips. And I did, I think, like 6 sessions on body with her, on her spine, and I did a full body, head, face, full body, feet, everything. And she started to get more of the feeling coming back into her fingertips. I worked on her hands a lot too. So that was amazing. So I've got that pair. I use that a lot for her. But then sometimes things need to be, actually, I may have used this more for her. It was so long ago. But this one's 89 hertz, and this is 144 hertz. This is another pair of weighted forks I have that are Fibonacci forks. And these, I use these for headaches a lot. Somehow, magically, they're very helpful for headaches, even migraines. They won't, in my experience, because I'm a chronic migraine person.
Oh my God, really? My son, not the one I mentioned earlier, my other son has chronic migraine. That sounds tough. I know how hard that is. Well, not from my own experience, but I can see it. That's horrible. You poor thing.
Yeah, it's terrible. You get pre-drone, post-drone, vision disruptions, all kinds of stuff. But these help. They'll take the edge off. And so these are really fun to work with too. And they have more of like a higher frequency than the other ones. So those are, in practice, those are my weighted forks that I use, that I see a lot of results, positive results with. And then I've got my working fork, which is the 174 hertz. Sounds like this. And then I've got, yeah, good. Yes, take the deep breath. So our breathing is really important in this work too. Like in yoga, you might get used to breathing in the nose, out the nose to build charge. But in biofield tuning, you want to notice when you're holding your breath and when you're breathing, you want to exhale out the mouth, because it breaks that connection, and it allows the body, it does release information into your body that tells you we're releasing, we're not building. So this is 144. This fork for me usually picks up on things like structural information about the body. Like if people have old injuries and stuff, I'll sometimes come across that with this fork. This is 222, and this is kind of like a more like sitting with it meditation fork. It's so sweet. Sweet. Okay. So And then I have a 417. I don't know if you can hear it. It's quiet.
Yeah.
But this one's really loving. It's like a very nurturing fork. So sometimes if something is intense, I'll bring that one out and it really helps to nurture the person that's on my table or in session with me, whatever we're stuck in. It kind of like brings some motherly love into the space in my experience, and it helps some of those energies to shift that are being very stubborn. So those are the forks that I mostly work with, and I just use like a hockey puck, a rubber hockey puck, to activate the unweighted forks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's it. Sometimes I'll bring in crystals. I use sometimes a pendulum. I got really into using my hands. The pendulum comes in for finding places that the body is prioritizing to work on for the session. So I'll run it along the central channel of the body, and it'll come over the different chakra points or energy centers. The pendulum is just a piece of acrylic on a string, but it's working with my muscles and the client's muscles, and it will spin or stop or go into a line to indicate how big of a priority that space is and where we should be focusing on working. So if I have an hour to work with somebody, I want to make sure we're working on that priority layer of information. And so then I know which side I'm going to start on in the field, and then we'll do the other side as well.
So what's making the pendulum move? It's something communicating from the body.
Yeah, it's like sympathetic information coming through my muscles and their muscles, and then the energetic information between. Even there's a word for this, and it's escaping me right now, but even in sessions, sometimes I will feel pains or different body sensations. And sometimes it passes and I don't have to say anything because I don't want to interrupt the person receiving. But sometimes it's pretty persistent, and I'll mention it and like, oh, I'm like really feeling this pain here in my body. And they'll say, oh, that's interesting because, and then they'll tell me, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like, it always blows my mind. But it happens a lot more than you'd think.
Really? So basically, not only are you able to sense the places where there's tension and a history of maybe local trauma in the body, but you're able to then release that and to get the body to heal itself. And again, that suggests that, like you were saying, everything is vibration, and that you're basically just altering the course of the vibration in some way, and that you're making the body somehow able to get beyond that trauma. Is that right? Would that be a good way of saying it?
Yeah, you're helping the body to entrain itself to a more coherent frequency. When there's stress and trauma, then you've got static in the system. You're not coming through clear. But when you're able to entrain with sound, then the body wants to be its beautiful, magnificent, divine, stunning self, and it hears the frequency of the fork being off a bit because it's echoing how the body sounds, and it's like, that can't be me, and it will work to entrain itself. And so when I'm sitting in a spot, I'm waiting for that to happen. I'll be like, I'm going to hang out here for a minute. I'll hang out in this kerfuffly spot. And eventually what happens is the fork will go from sounding like, like there's like a dysfunctional texture happening in the fork in some way. Then it'll entrain the body to come back into clarity and coherence, and the sound of the fork will change as well. And the client hears that. They can hear that if they're paying attention. So it'll go from having a texture that's kind of like gritty and rough to the beautiful angelic clarity that it should have, simply by activating enough in those energetic pockets, long enough for the body to entrain itself to the fork. And that's where a lot of that relaxation comes from, because we're clicking on information in there too, and we're dragging it with us. Sometimes you get stuck, so you need the body to entrain a bit to open the space for you to bring that in.
So there are different things going on at the same time. That's really, really brilliant to hear, because it just makes so much sense the way you've explained it. And actually, can I just ask, you mentioned that you had a fork that was 222, but it just reminded me that in, I think, the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, it's 111 hertz. And some friends are just coming back from a trip to India where they visited the Barabar caves, which are these incredible caves which have been designed as acoustic chambers, and the precision is incredible. And apparently that's also 111. And I think also in Malta. So would that mean anything to you, this 111 hertz? Would that say anything to you in terms of, would this be for healing maybe, or is this a particularly good frequency? Does that mean anything?
I know a lot of people who want to work with 111, and I think that even Eileen tried to make a 111 fork. She'll have prototypes all the time. The forks that I have are actually made from her because they're a really nice proprietary metal and they hold their tone longer. But she'll have different prototypes, and she's discussed it in the past. And I forget exactly what she said about the 111, but she ended up not going through with finalizing it. And I know a lot of these ancient structures are built to specific frequencies. There's an airplane. But for me, unless I'm really like experiencing a fork or a frequency, then I don't really have too much to say about it. They do, when you work with them, you will feel their different character coming through. I don't have a lot of experience with 111. I know some of the buildings like the Asclepion in ancient Greece, and there's some other places too I'm not remembering. Even like the theaters were built structurally, sometimes to mimic like a golden ratio and things of that nature, just for the specific acoustics for healing. And they used sound as well in the Asclepian and the sleeping temples. They also use snake venoms and all kinds of crazy things.
But tried and tested, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But 111, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah, no, I just thought it would be worth asking. And so just to go back to your sessions then, and because you're doing these once a month YouTube sessions, what can people expect to get from these sessions? How does it work for them? So you've showed your tuning forks, and it's like a live session that you're doing. So what do you think people can expect if they tune in, literally?
Something really interesting and new. They can expect to come with an open and curious mind and to just give themselves a moment to receive nourishment. And they're going to hear forks and hear me talking, and they're going to likely experience deep relaxation. They may experience body sensations, feeling things coming alive, like we mentioned, and moving, tingling. Yeah, really feeling more connected with themselves afterwards is typically what I hear. Like the chat will light up after, and 9 times out of 10, it's like, I feel so much lighter. I feel more like myself. I feel so relaxed.
More like myself. Isn't that such a great word? More like myself. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Well, I will be tuning in. I have to say, I've in the past found it hard to stay still. And it's something I'm working on, but I think I'm getting better. And now that I've had this chat with you, especially, I can see how it's something that you have to work on, and that sense of letting these thoughts and worries and stresses just come to the surface and just accept them is a start. And then, you said you can do more with that, and maybe guide your meditation as well, maybe with mantras or whatever. But it's something that's very important to do, rather than just ignore them and go through your day ignoring them on a daily basis, So that's definitely something I'm working on. So I'm going to try and get better.
How are your hips? Do you ever get like a hip? Where do you hold tension in your body?
That's the thing. I don't really feel like I have tension in any particular place. Well, maybe my stomach, maybe sometimes.
Okay.
I don't think it's not really so much in my joints. Although maybe, no, I don't think so. Do you know what? I don't even know myself. That's something I'm realizing. I don't have a clue. I just have to figure all this out, like.
That's all we're doing. Everybody all the time is doing that. There's no shame. There's this big stigma that we're all supposed to have everything figured out. We don't. We're never going to. We just have to do our best.
I guess so. Well, at least I know that now. I know.
Yeah. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is realizing, and then you can easily know what you want to do about it. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
awareness to observe yourself is, again, that's the same as creating the space between action and response. It's the awareness. You become the observer of your own behavior and
Yeah.
patterns and thoughts rather than
Mhm.
being them. Like, I am angry. No, I'm experiencing anger. What does that mean? Does this relate to a pattern? And how can I help to realign myself?
Mm. Yeah. And where would you typically then yourself, Shan, would experience tension? Would there be a particular place, like a joint or like a part of your body where you'd get a buildup of tension? Or
Yeah, mine is like in my right, like, psoas muscle. So like kind of in your butt, like your high butt behind your hip kind of area. If I let that stagnate and I don't take care of it immediately, then it will spread to like a very intense pain. And that's the thing that got me into yoga was that. And that pattern for me is was, and I'm always working on it, but people pleasing and overdoing, and that comes from wanting to be accepted and wanting to be seen for who I am when I don't even know who I am and wanting to be appreciated. So, like, really working to overachieve and to
mm,
show my value, because of trauma, right? We all carry these things that end up having their own narration that we have to like decode. What does this mean to get to
mm,
the root? With biofield tuning, my favorite thing about it when I started doing it was that you don't have to have those conversations. I don't have to. Oh, the air is coming alive. It smells so good. I don't have to talk about the information I'm receiving in order for the work to work. It's not talk therapy, it's energy therapy.
mm,
But in our personal lives, we do have these thoughts and we want to solve the mystery of why we behave in certain ways. So I learned for myself through this injury that I had these patterns. And then I got into
mm.
yoga to help work with it and fell in love with that as well. So.
Amazing. Listen, it's been brilliant chatting to you, Shan. Do you want to just talk about your channel and maybe the next session that you might have coming up?
Sure. So if you go to my channel today, you're going to see probably not much except for some posts, but I do have a lot of videos up there that have been privatized and they'll be put back up very soon. So don't be scared if that's what you see. And then I'll have a session posted for not this month, for next month, for April. And if you subscribe to the channel and you hit the notifications bell, you'll likely see that come up in your feed when it is
Mm,
posted. But check that out. And if you pop on the Modern Medwa channel on YouTube, spelled the same as it is on my screen, and you can find it by just putting an at before it and removing the space. Modern Medwa at
I'll
Modern.
put the link as well in the description.
Thanks. So yeah, and it's like an hour. I try to keep it to an hour out of respect for everybody's time. Yep, so I've got that there. I've got some interviews that I'll be putting back up soon, like with Ryan Seven and Teddy Bass, and some stuff I did for Snappy's channel a while back, if you know who any of those people are. That'll all be up again soon, but go
Yes.
there. If you want to contact me for anything else, you can go to modernmedwa.com or modernesoterichealing.com. That's like my practice website, and I have
Great.
contact information listed there as well.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much, Shan. It's been brilliant. And let's do this again soon.
For sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'll just stop the recording in a second. Sorry. I was just conscious that we didn't